What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video. And today, so it's Sunday, so no like theory or anything. Weekend. Sorry. I like to upload matches, talk about stuff. And I wanted to talk about specifically. So on Friday, I uploaded a video about GO1 and Fenrich making an early tier list for Season 3. And, tier lists tend to get people really riled up for all sorts of reasons. Like, oh, they're sleeping on this character, or, oh, this doesn't matter, or like, why do you care about this, and stuff like that. So, I want to just kind of go into, like, what tier lists are actually for, and if you're like deep in the competitive scene, you probably like get it, but I made sure before actually doing this to kind of like hop around and watch a couple other content creators and see what their opinions were, because one of the things that people kind of get mixed up is like what the actual purpose of it is for. So like if you're not entering tournaments, you probably don't need to care about tiers that much. Just pick what you like, pick something that does what you want to do with the characters you like, and it's fine. Generally, tier lists are kind of like to stir discussions more than anything else about the literal strength of the characters. Like nothing more, nothing less. So, in a game like this, it's kind of hard to talk about because it's a team game. So you have to talk about how good the character is and how good the character is at supporting other characters. And it matters, especially like for a player like me, it matters a lot because I play in tournaments. It actually affects how things go. Like, I'm not going to do as well if I play like, and this is like a season 2, this is like the last season 2 tour list I made, right? So if I play like Nappa Krillin 16, I'm not going to do as well as if I played Team Gohan, GT Goku, SSJ Goku. That's just the way it is. But if you're not aiming for that type of result, you don't have to worry about it so much. You also get some insights to how the game actually is. And I thought that I mentioned this in the video, I guess from Friday. And I thought I mentioned this in other videos too. The lettering, assigning the letters literally means something. So it might, I guess with recent games like Dragon Ball, like Grand Blue, because I think Grand Blue is quite well balanced as well. Or even like Guilty Gear. Like Guilty Gear is pretty well balanced. I don't think it's like there's any character like weaker than B. Probably what I should have done is dug up a tier list where I thought like there were characters who were like D and like E tier, like really, like actually bad characters. Like one of the biggest things that you should have gotten from Friday's video is that there are no bad characters in Dragon Ball. I don't think there really have ever been any bad characters in Dragon Ball. They might feel bad compared to the other characters, like for example, especially talking about Season 1, because there were just like a lot of like little design gaps, like Adult Gohan having hard knockdowns, and like 16 having hard knockdowns, all that nonsense. Despite that, it's just that like in this game, the issue is that characters are better than other characters, not characters are bad. There are examples of like an easy one I can think of would be like say like in Vampire Savior, there's a character named is his name Anarchist, the mummy character, right? He is literally missing system mechanics. He just doesn't have system mechanics. He can't do stuff other characters can't do. He's usually rated lower than other characters because he just can't do stuff. He has a couple of good things going for him and a couple of good tricks, but overall he gets mauled because he can't get people off him because he's missing system mechanics. That's a good example of a bad character. Or BlazBlue is also a great example of this. So like BlazBlue, over time, the game has gotten more balanced, but there are multiple versions of the game where some of the characters are just trash. Like how are you gonna have a character? So, one example, this really hurts too. It's because I like it's called Chrono Phantasma. I really love the original version of Chrono Phantasma, but I won't deny that the character balance was not the absolute best. They introduced a new character named Bullet. She's kind of supposed to be like a fast grappler, but she had an ability where she could like track and like fly at you, essentially, and you have to level it up to make it stronger, blah blah blah. It seemed like they were scared of it being too good, which is funny because I see this in Dragon Ball too. Like, you can kind of tell when they're scared of an idea being too good. I think like Frieza is usually a pretty good example of that, or like Zamasu is a pretty good example. Nappa is another example of like they're scared of this character idea being too good. So what happened, it was just like they were scared of it being too good, so they held it down. So Bullet didn't really do anything, but then meanwhile all the good characters like Rachel controls the wind, literally controls the wind, instant overheads you, god projectiles, Valkenine, god normals, god projectiles, Kokonoe make you flying around, plus 24 for full screen, god normals, god everything. It's like there are literal bad characters and good characters in that game. In Dragon Ball, basically everyone, the baseline is good for characters. The baseline is good for characters, and you can see that by how the lettering is assigned. So one of the takeaways and I mentioned this Friday, that I really got from their opinion, Goichi and Fenrich's opinion, currently, is that they consider many of the characters to be not just good, but like great and viable, and like super viable, because I usually consider like A+ to be like the line for like tournament viability, but they had a bunch. It was like 21 characters in S- tier, so that's a really good look for the game. In season 2, I considered like 12 to 15 characters to be like viable, but right now it's like almost like 2/3 of the cast or something. I think that will shrink over time, and like I said, I'm on the point of like it was too soon as well to make something like that, but it's good to like stir the discussion. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention too is that like when you're talking about matchups, so some people like to set tier lists up in the way of like matchups. So like, oh, like let's say like Tingohan beats Ginyu like 7-3 or something. So that's a good way of doing it as well. That takes a long time to do though. That takes a really, really long time to do. You have to play a lot. That affects, I think that's usually better. Like that affects literally everyone who plays the game more than like a tier list, because like the matchup, we talk about it from a matchup perspective, like whether or not you compete or you only play online or you only play your neighbors, like that matchup interaction is going to happen no matter what. So it's a pretty good way of looking at it, but it's kind of hard for Dragon Ball since it's like a team game. So usually, at least the way I've been thinking about it is that I only think about it about the point versus the point. So for example, Ginyu, I talk about this with Ginyu all the time. Like, I just think he has just a ton of bad matchups. That's why I don't think he's good. Like, all the DLC beats him, and like a bunch of like the original characters beat him. So I'm like, okay, he has bad matchups. It's just something you have to deal with. You don't want to. There's two obnoxious sides to it, right? So on the competitive end, the obnoxious side is when you're talking to somebody who's not being competitive, and you're like, man, why are you wasting your time playing Beerus? You should play GT Goku. Okay, don't do that. They're not competing. They don't care. They're just playing who they like. That's fine. Just let them play who they like. Don't comment. You could be like, oh, that's interesting that you play them. That's a much nicer way of putting it. I've definitely sat next to people, and like, you know, some people enter for fun, and then like I'll run into a weird team. Like I know somebody who plays like Beerus based Goku, for example, and I'm like, whoa, okay. And then you just play against it. It's fine. But then on the other end, there's the people who are like, tires don't exit. This thing doesn't mean anything. It's all about how good you are. You build up the character to. No, come on, dude. That's bullshit. We all know it's proven. It is proven that this actually matters. For example, I would have to check again, but last year's Evo, 2019 Evo, literally every tournament was won by an S tier. Every single tournament. The only tournament that wasn't won by an S tier was BB Tag, and that team had an S tier character on it. You can't deny. You really, really, really can't deny. Every game, especially when it comes to like high level, it matters. It just matters. It's part of it. It doesn't matter to everybody, because everybody has different goals. Everyone plays the game for different reasons. But don't be the person who's like, oh my god, this doesn't matter. You can get takeaways from this. You can actually learn a lot about the characters from this. And when you see tiers build out this way, especially when it's like early, one thing about early tier lists, when people rate characters low just because they don't know stuff about them, that kind of gives personally me, a little motivation to explore those characters a little bit. Because we've had, in Dragon Ball, we had a bunch of these cases. 'Cause I'm definitely ready for somebody to be like, oh, well, everyone said base Goku was bad, and then Wawa came along. Most of the good players here, at least, when Season 2 dropped and we saw the base Goku changes, we're like, this character's probably pretty good. I think the only real sleepers of last season, honestly, were base Vegeta, and probably Z Broly. Besides that, like, I think it was mostly we had a pretty good idea. Oh, and Tingohan. I would say those three were probably like the big sleepers. Besides those three, like especially if you know the game well, and when you look at the changes, you're like, wow, this character has to be good. Like what is going on? So I hope I cleared this up a little bit more. Let me know if you have any questions about this. Like and subscribe if you like it, and I will see you next time. Peace out.